Have you ever met the guy that you wanted to hate? And when you went to pull your straps up, told you to wait. Now let me give y'all a little demonstration. See, I ran into these dudes from the Aryan Nation. It was a Friday, my day, exit off the highway, being derelict in the caddy, yo, the flyway. Went to get a package of beaties. I was enjoying this immaculate evening. All of a sudden I heard somebody in the back of us beeping. Kind of annoying, like a track is repeating. They harassed some blacks this weekend. Well, me and D, we was actually creeping like some G's. We parked. I ain't never sleeping like MDs. Then I felt this crazy vibe, and I'm thinking maybe why. Enter a white crazy guy with crazy eyes and a partner ready to start the Armageddon. Left around and get deaded by the arm, nigga, leg on my head. Don't wanna have to go to war like this.
Peace and love, peace and love, peace and love. This is yours truly, General Pow Shadowz of the House of Hip Step, better known as author P.E. McCallum, author of the book NGR, What Does It Mean? An expose on the N-word from a hip-hop perspective, available on Amazon in audiobook, paperback, and Kindle. And this is a platform. We're back today with another good and informative video. And this, of course, is a platform where we explore the content in my book, things that's generally things surrounding the N-word, but also issues surrounding white supremacy, also race relations and social issues and things of that nature. So we want to get right into it today with our topic of discussion. And what we have today is we have a good video today, another one. You know, last week was great because like the last video, shout out to MC Copyright. He gave us some good information about the N-word from a white rapper's perspective. And something very interesting happened a couple days ago. I've been promoting my book on the Star Report, which is another YouTube platform that I been supporting for many years. And Star was asking a great question. I want to salute Star, peace to you, because he just had some health issues about with pneumonia. He was real candid about that, and getting some facts around it and things of that nature. So I hope everybody's out there being healthy and taking good care of yourself. Star, glad to have you back. But he was doing having a conversation and discussion on his platform, the Star Report, the other night about the N-word. So of course, you know, that's right up my alley, and that's what we deal with here on this platform. And the question that he asked was, are Black Americans moving away from the N-word as a whole? So he was posing the question, basically, are we tired of the N-word? Are Black Americans, have we outgrown it, the use of it, you know, on all levels? And I thought that was a great question, and a lot of people called in to chime in about that, including myself. So if you have an opportunity, I suggest you go and watch that episode of the Star Report. It's called "Are Black Americans Moving Away from the N-Word?" It's a very good, healthy conversation, and that prompted me to do this topic of discussion today, which I thought that we should ask a similar question, which would be, should FBA stop using the N-word altogether? And I thought that would be an appropriate question for today's discussion, because, you know, what I find is that as I wrote the book, NGR, What Does It Mean? As I wrote this book, I get a lot of mixed reviews. And, you know, one demographic that I always get a lot of feedback of as far as my book goes, and it's always really interesting, is from the elders. If you ask the elders, I think the elders would say yes. You know, I think there would be no doubt what their response would be. Should FBA or should Black Americans stop using the N-word? According to our elders, yes. And you know, I'm asking the question, should FBA stop using the N-word? And let's define FBA briefly, all right? So FBA would be Foundational Black Americans. A lot of people, I think, get confused about what FBA means. It means Foundational Black Americans, and it refers to the lineage, a person's lineage. So if you have a mother and a father, and they're both born in America, some people even, there's another organization called ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery. Similar, kind of based around the same ideology that if both of your parents have lineage here in America, you are considered a foundational Black American, meaning your ancestors, your direct parents were born here in the Americas, and they contributed to this society, to this economy, and contributed to making this country what it is today. That's the whole idea behind it, is that it's not that we're foundational, just trying to create an identity, but it's also what the identity represents is what Black Americans have done for this country, and that's basically be the building blocks for this country. We can't be overlooked. So there's a lot of debate right now about what we should be called, but I think that foundational Black Americans is a good descriptive term. I think it's better than African American. So we'll rock with that. So we're asking that, should FBA stop using the N-word? Now, as I pointed out in other videos, we've had 2 funerals for the N-word as a Black community. All right. And I like to say Black and indigenous community. All right. There is no Black land. There's no land called Black. So a proper more description, and I do understand terminology surrounding the Black man, but indigenous may be a more descriptive term. But there's been, we as a Black community, Black and indigenous community, we buried the N-word on 2 occasions, like I pointed out. And the city of Detroit and the city of Houston, primarily our elders, but many young people participated in the it was a mock, there were 2 mock burials for the N-word, where we basically buried the N-word in effigy. And to take the time to do something like that in 2 different locations, the North and the South, in our community, it says a lot. I think that it says that a large percentage of the people in our community are fed up with using the N-word. We're tired of hearing it. I think that people tend to cringe when they hear it. Like a lot of people in our society and in our Black and indigenous community really just have strayed away from that word. I think people overall, I have a couple points here I want to go through. People overall despise using the N-word, all right, outside of the culture of hip hop. So if you're not a MC, a DJ, or really involved in the hip hop culture as a fan of the culture, I think that people don't understand when you use it, and I think that it's something that they are very critical about. For instance, if you're an MC, right, you're used to hearing the N-word. You probably were a fan of NWA. It's probably, you've heard your favorite rappers use it for decades. At this point, you're desensitized to it. But if you haven't grown up in hip hop culture, I think that people are ready to just stop using it. They don't see a need for it outside of hip hop. Is there a need for using it outside of slang, outside of it kind of sounding like a cool thing to say? Is there a need for it? It's a great question. And people overall despise using it. They don't, when we say, well, it's a term of endearment. I think that a lot of people are not in agreement with that ideology, that it's a term of endearment. They don't think it should be a term to be endeared at all. And I think that Star may be right, that Black Americans may be moving away from the N-word, because I think that especially in today's sensitive society, with the younger people in the cancel culture and everything, I think people are a lot more aware and a lot more conscious of what they're calling people, and anything that's been considered degrading to people, people were getting rid of. Because remember, we don't the N-word began, as I pointed out in my book, the N-word began as something that was positive, right? It started out as a positive term towards black and indigenous people, right? It was used in Africa. But then as time went on, and as the Greeks invaded Africa and European cultures began to invade, and it began to be incorporated in the European languages of Greek and Latin, it started to change its meaning. Where it originally meant king and emperor or deity, it started to mean simply black, and then just simply black. And then over time, that description of black, right, which was just more of a physical description, it became derogatory over time. So the NGR becomes the NIGER, becomes the NIGGER. All right, and I want to just read this little section out of my book to give us a little background on where the N-word originated from. So I'm reading from page 31 in my book, NGR, what does it mean? An expose on the N-word from a hip-hop perspective, and it's this is page 31. Where did the N-word originate? If you got a copy of the book, follow along. Let's go. On the PBS website, pbs.org, under a section titled Hook, Fin, and Context, Section 1, it states that that according to the Anti-Bias Study Guide, Anti-Defamation League, 1998, when concerning nigger, it explains, nigger, also spelled nigar, Niggar, a word that is an alteration of the earlier nigger, which is Neger. Nigger derived from the French negril, from the Latin Niger, which means black. That was a lot of facts right there. I hope y'all following me. First recorded in 1587 as negar, Negar, the word probably originated with the dialectical pronunciation of Negro in northern England and Ireland. This answers the question that many have in terms of where did the word nigger in this form specifically originate, America or somewhere else? Because many of us in America have been exposed to the word in America and have not traveled abroad much, and knowing the deep racial history of America, we tend to think that nigger was something that the American race hate groups like the KKK originated. The unfortunate reality that we have to face is that many of the early American authors were white supremacists. And coming from prestigious universities like Oxford and Cambridge, these were some of the authors who presented us with some of America's earliest racist ideologies. In Michelle Birnbaum's essay review titled The Politics of Whiteness in Early American Literature, she states, thus, one of the primary concerns of her study, Race in American Literature, 1638 through 1837, Oxford, 1992, is how the strategic production of racial literary tropes from the colonial period through the mid-19th century illuminated and ultimately served white interests. All right, and then I suggest y'all finish reading that section, where did the N-word originate, because I go into some deep history about the N-word in American literature. But what I want to focus on is this section where it says, first recorded in 1857 as negar, Negar, the word probably originated with the dialectical pronunciation of Negro in northern England and Ireland. All right. Also, let's look at this as well. I want to review this fact, is that nigger, also spelled nigar, Niggar. How many of y'all ever heard it spelled that way? A word that is an alteration of the earlier niger, Neger, and nigger derived from the French negril, Negril, from the Latin Niger. All right, so those are some facts that I wanted to bring out in today's video. Before I began researching the N-word, I had never heard of nigar, negril, nigrum. I'd heard of Niger, Negro, and things of that nature. So that's a lot of facts. That's a lot of facts that I just stated, that I just laid out right there, right? That's a lot of facts. Do we care? Do we care about those facts? Do we as a black and indigenous community care about where the N-word came from, where it originated from? Because even though we know that the N-word originated from where I just pointed out with that passage of my book, and in many other videos on this platform, which I encourage y'all to go back and look at, because I do a deep dive on this platform about where the N-word came from. And if you like to nerd out, so to speak, on history, then you want to go look at some of those videos, because I'm dropping it in every video, giving you jewels. But in knowing all of that and having all this history, the N-word came from NGR in the hieroglyphics, because the hieroglyphics didn't use vowels; they only used consonants. And in the N-word, and in the hieroglyphics, according to E.A. Wallace Bush, the N-word means deity, god or goddess, emperor, ruler, king, or something like that. Knowing that Emperor Haile Selassie, Jah Rastafari, is considered the last Negus, and Negus comes from Negus Nagas, the king of kings. Negus is an ancient Ge'ez word. Do we care? It's a good question. It's what we have to ask, because we know that even though it came from that, it was translated first by the Greeks, right, to become Niger. It's one of the earliest, Negrum or Niger, right, in Greek and Latin. And then we have Negro. And then what we do know is that after the British, by the time the British got a hold of it, it became Nigger, a term, as we know that according to dictionary.com, it's the most offensive word in the English language. And we have come to despise the word. You know, because let's face it, like Neely Fuller Jr., author rest in paradise, that I follow and study his works, The Code of White Supremacy and Racism. Words, according to him, words are just tools. So, you know, words are tools, and the meanings of words can change. Like I pointed out in one of my previous videos, swastika comes from svastika, right? Which meant good fortune or well-being. But now we know that when you see a swastika, it doesn't mean anything related to that. Now it's something totally degrading, totally derogatory to minorities. It's a white supremacist term. You don't see Jewish people, for instance, or European Jews. You don't see them wearing swastikas. You know what I mean? You don't see them or any other nationalities for that. This is a good point to bring up right now. Or any other nationalities who use the N-word as a term of endearment, slang within their culture, or anything like that. So I think that there's no debate that no matter what the history of the N-word is, we as a Black and Indigenous community have grown to despise the word. It has become the most offensive word in the English language, and I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon. I think that even though the N-word has a rich history as it relates to Black and Indigenous people, and it meant king, ruler, deity, divinity, I think that it's been tainted so much that now even when I was reading in my passage and I said nigger, I mean, it just, when you hear it with the hard R, it's something, it hits different with the hard R than it does with the A. And I think that there's reason for that. And we have to acknowledge that. You can't ignore that. Does using it make people think it's okay? Does us as the Black and Indigenous community using the word make other people outside of our community, for instance, like copyright these white rappers, like he was saying in my last video, does us using it make other cultures and other people, like white people, even Latino people, Mexican Americans, and you know, people from the Latino community, they use it from a hip-hop perspective. Asian rappers use it, right? From a hip-hop perspective. Everybody's using it. Does us using it, Black and Indigenous people, make these people think using it okay? Of course it does. Of course it does. They hear us using it. They hear us referring to ourselves as the N word frequently. Why wouldn't they think that? And we make it seem cool. We make it cool. Everything that Black Americans do, aka FBA, everything that we do. And again, you know, I like to point out and interject that, you know, I do want to send a shout out to our indigenous community, those who consider themselves indigenous. Many of the foundational Black Americans are indigenous to the Americas, meaning that their ancestors were already here and were not brought on slave ships. They did not migrate over here from Africa by way of the European slave trade. They were already here. Now, this is something that we're starting to see this information really surface and rise more, but it does not contradict the FBA, by the way. Considering yourself Black and indigenous, which many of our Pan-African people within that community, they despise the whole ideology of Black Americans being Native Americans or considering themselves indigenous. But regardless to that, there are a lot of Black FBA people who would be considered or classified as FBA who consider themselves Black and indigenous or indigenous to the Americas. Whether you consider yourself indigenous or not, you hear me refer to the terms Black and indigenous because it is an accurate description for Black people within America, because we are indigenous to the planet. We are the first, the Black people, the so-called Black man is the original man, the indigenous man to the planet Earth in general. So it is an appropriate term in that way. But anyway, so getting back to what I was saying and the point I was making, does us using it make people think it's okay? And I think that's a great question. I think the answer is yes. Like I said, if people hear us continue to use it, they will continue to use it, because whatever we do, people are watching us closely, and you know they're emulating us, they're imitating our culture, because it is cool. You know, like I say in my song "Watch the Top Flow," I say, you know, we was the first people in the Americas, and we showed them how to be cool. You know, and I was kind of joking when I said that, but if you think about it, it's facts though. It's facts. So, should foundational Black Americans stop using the N-word? Like I point out in my book, I'm not here to answer these questions for you. All right? I'm not here to tell you what's right or what's wrong. I only present the facts, and I leave it up to us as a community. It's up to us. What do we want to do? It's not up to one person. What do we want to do? Please leave it in the comments. Leave a comment. Let me know what y'all want to do. Whether you know it or not, we are defining this. You are important. What your opinion is important, is valued. We have a say-so. You have a say-so. I have a say-so. So people are going to go back and look at these videos in the future and leave a comment, because they're going to read these comments and they're going to see what we had to say about it. All right. So they're going to value our opinion. So with that, I want to say peace and love. Everybody continue on your hip stepping. All right. Don't let anybody stop you or slow you down from achieving your goals. That's the whole science of hip step. All right. Don't let anything stop you. Keep hip stepping. All right. And spread love, not hate on this planet, because, you know, we need it. Don't you agree? We need it. So spread love, not hate. All right. See y'all next time in the next video.